and welcome back to Appleyard Motorcycles in Keighley and yet another bike review. And today I'll be checking out this here CF Moto NK650. So let's see what this here mid-range naked bike is all about. So in the meantime, if you're in this neck of the woods, or even if you're not in this neck of the woods, get yourself up or down to Appleyard Motorcycles in Keighley. Fantastic local dealership, bags of stock, both new and used, plenty of demonstrators, the entire Royal Enfield range, the entire Suzuki range, the entire CF Moto range for that matter, and plenty of other mainstream marks as well. Get yourself up or down to Appleyard in Keighley. So let's now jump aboard the CF Moto NK650 and see what she's all about. Right, so here we are then, the CF Moto 650 NK. I think I said NK650, didn't I? Matters not. CF Moto 650 NK. Naked motorcycle there, I think is the classification. Mid-weight, 650cc sort of category. It's normally regarded as mid-range, anywhere between sort of 500 and 900cc mid-range, to my mind anyway. And yeah, quite a chunky, transformerish looking bike there. Presents a somewhat insect-like face, which I imagine might divide opinion, but I think it looks alright. But it's all in the rider course, isn't it? So yeah, I'm sort of thinking in terms of equivalence. Suzuki SV650s springing to mind, but I may be a little wide off the mark there, other than same engine, size. Right, let's see how we get on, eh? Now I'm going to get a few miles under my belt before I try and wax too lyrically about this here bike. So I'm going to take a run out to Squires at Sherburn in Elmet, and probably do the walk around there after a pot of steam and after a bit of research into the specs of this bike, because I had anticipated taking out the CF Moto 800 NK today, but it's going to be the 650. Hey, so I'm going to have to do a bit of research when I get to Squires, but flat-footed on here, and still with a bend at the knee, so quite comfortable riding position, about what you would expect from a bike in this classification. Let's get the old mirrors right here, fire up the old TFT there, 5-inch TFT by the looks of things. Okay, so neutral we've got. So like that. Okie dokie. And yeah, so fairly modest TFT there. Digital readout of speed in the centre, surrounding which is an analogue representation of the rev counter. To the left we have the trip and voltage readouts, to the right temperature and fuel, and top left the clock, top right gear position indicator, and that'd be about it. Do we have modes? I'm not sure, possibly because it's saying sport there, but we'll find out in due course. How exciting is this? Things developing while we're on the move. Right, I'm going to set off and I'm going to speak to you in a little bit. Right, okay then. So I'll do the numbers on the walk around. So this little bit will be purely about how the bike feels to ride and what the performance and handling feels like. Yeah, so first observation, it's a little bit cramped for me, but then I'm 6'1", so lots of bikes are a bit cramped for me, but not uncomfortably so, but for sure it's an acute angle at the knee, so you feel that you're in a sporty riding position, and a bit of an angle down to the handlebars, nothing too excessive. Certainly not as noticeable as it was on the Husqvarna Svartpilen that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. More comfortable. I'm finding that I don't have to crane my neck back quite so far to maintain a view of the road ahead. On this here bike, oh, Lone Magpie, salute. So yeah, all in all, quite comfortable, if a little bit sporty in terms of the leg position. Cracking view from these mirrors, really good mirrors, I have to say, and quite a characterful, and that's a very overused adjective when it comes to motorcycles, but I can't think of a better one at the moment. A characterful engine. It is a parallel twin, and it's got quite a rewarding thrum about it indeed. Now then, of course, only a 650, and I'm not entirely sure what the brake horsepower figures are yet. As I said, I'll go through that on the walk around, but it feels really urgent and willing, and quite a lot of torque. I'm finding that, you know, in both 5th and 5th, that there's a lot of traction, a lot of pull when you wind the throttle back. The handling's lovely, nice and tight, nice quick turning, very balanced, and definitely no feelings of vagueness or uncertainty on the bends. And the suspension's pretty good. Soaking up some of these horrible road surfaces quite well indeed. Certainly a lot more, shall we say, compliant than my Super Meteor at the back end. Excuse me while I sniffle. But yeah, the handling's superb, the performance is very, very urgent indeed for a 650cc. I mean, bear in mind, my Super Meter's a 650cc, and I had the Royal Enfield Interceptor, and that was a 650cc. And this is a different kettle of fish altogether. A lot more lively. So yeah, the seating position, the handling, the performance, the overall comfort. Yeah, I give it at this stage, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. Now, of course, my take on this bike will undoubtedly be shaped to a large extent by its cost to buy, and I'm not sure what it is yet, but I bet it's not very much indeed. I bet it represents excellent value for money. So we'll double check on that when I do the walk around. As I said earlier, I was expecting to be taking out the 800 today. So I've done all my research on the 800 NK and now I've got the 650. So we're going to have to start afresh when we stop at Squire's Cafe. But 6 gear, 50 mile an hour now if we wind on. Got loads and loads of shove. Plenty. Naked bike, of course, no wind protection, no weather protection. A great summer scratching bike, therefore perfect for that. And I'm obviously getting buffeted by the oncoming airflow, but it's not by any means a showstopper. Perfectly bearable. No worse than a lot of naked bikes, and better than quite a few. Gearbox is nice and positive, a little bit clicky, but got a quality feel about it. Yeah, I've not experienced any false neutrals or any undue notchiness, anything like that. All very willing. Yeah, you could have a lot of fun on this bike, and it's got exactly the right amount of power for your occasional thrill. And 6 gear here, the response is very noticeable indeed. So we'll see how we go. We'll drop to 4th and take this here sweeping right hand bend and see what the old handling's like. Look at all them potholes. Ooh. Yeah, bob on. Absolutely bob on the bends. Bob on the bends. CF Moto, of course, Chinese made, but not quite the new kid on the block. Been around a fair bit longer, I believe, than the likes of Benelli and Vosges and Keyway, one or two other marks. So not entirely new to the party, and starting to get quite a decent reputation if my research is to be believed. Let's wind her up again. Oh, there's stacks and stacks of power for a 650 here. There's 6 gear here, 4,500 RPM and 60 miles an hour. absolutely effortless. So this bike is going to cruise at 70, 80, probably 90 miles an hour all day long, where you can do that legally, of course, without missing a beat. The big surprise with this bike for me is its performance. This engine in this bike certainly packs a punch. Woohoo! Of course, being a physically small bike, the sensation of speed is all the more apparent. Yeah, so CF Moto, yes, Chinese made. CF Moto, of course, in collaboration with KTM. And my view is that an established mark like KTM are not going to put their name to any sort of collaborative endeavour or partnership with an outfit that they don't trust to be able to turn out quality motorcycles. That's my rationale. I just don't think that they wouldn't go into an arrangement with the potential risk of reputational exposure unless you know, KTM had done the research and were satisfied with the bona fides of the Chinese manufacturers. And I've heard all the arguments against Chinese bikes 1,000 times, whether they are morally based arguments because of the nature of China, People's Republic thereof, and the regime, or whether it's perceptions which I believe are largely unfounded regarding build quality, durability and reliability. Certainly largely unfounded when it comes to the more modern bikes like this. And of course concerns about second-hand values, residual values, and concerns also about the availability of spare parts and accessories. Now the only, I'll lay my cards on the table, the only two of those concerns which I think really hold some water. One is the residual cost, the potential for depreciation, but to a large extent, you know, the jury's still out on that, because the bikes haven't been around long enough by and large to be able to put that to the test long term. So we'll see. I mean, that's something that certainly applied to Japanese motorcycles when they first hit these shores back in the late 60s, early 70s, until they managed to get a secure foothold and acquire over a number of years a good reputation. And I think that's where we are with these Chinese made bikes. So yeah, residuals is a bit of a funny one. They might not be the best in the world at the moment, but going forward I suspect that that picture might change. Bear in mind, of course, that perceptions around God, look at the state of this road, eh? Can you believe it? Shocking. Yeah, perceptions around reliability and durability and longevity are all a function of time elapsed. So I think it's still a bit too early in the game to be able to comment authoritatively on that point. And so of course the other one is about the availability of parts and servicing and the rest of it. Well, of course, Appleyards are part of the Moto GB group, and the Moto GB group's a very big group of motorcycle distributors, and so it shouldn't be too hard to find a dealership within striking distance that can look after all your maintenance issues. So I don't particularly have a concern over that. And I'm not sure about this bike, but certainly the CF Moto 800 MTs come with a 4-year warranty, and that to me is a very, very big consideration indeed, a 4-year warranty. So I go back to what I've said previously, and what I actually firmly believe at this point is that Chinese-made bikes are not to be dismissed, because I think the great thing about them, set all the other issues aside, the great thing about these bikes is they bring motorcycles, and indeed certain categories of motorcycle, well within the reach of people who would not otherwise be able to afford them. Because not everybody can afford the capital outlay associated with the likes of the main 4 Japanese manufacturers, with the likes of KTM themselves, BMW, Ducati, and all the other more established motorcycle brands that we're all of course very familiar with. Not everybody's got the capital outlay, and when you consider, you know, if it were your dream to have for example, not this bike, but if it were your dream to have, for example, a fully equipped, fully spec'd up adventure bike with all the panniers and the crash bars and the spotlights and the electronics and all the rest of it, if you wanted one of those, CF Moto will give you one for round about 8.5 grand at the moment. With a 4-year warranty. So that's the CF Moto 800 MT range, the touring and the sport. It'll start at 8.5 grand. Now, hey, you ain't going to get any sort of BMW adventure bike for that, or any sort of Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda or Kawasaki adventure bike at that level of spec for anything like that. And that general principle of bringing well-spec'd motorcycles into the reach of people who are slightly less well off, shall we say, like me for example. I can't afford a brand new BMW GS, not a chance. It brings these bikes within the reach of far more pockets, and that's a great thing. to me. Okay then, so let's do the walk around. So there we have, very modern, insect-like looking, looks like a wasp's head, doesn't it? The CF Moto 650 NK. So let's start at the front, and the suspension is a standard KYB 43mm forks there, and yeah, quite push feeling suspension at the front end, actually, not adjustable. I would argue that's not an issue on a bike like this. It's not going to be going down any rough tracks anytime soon, I wouldn't have thought. Brakes wise, we've got two 300mm discs, and sporting their J1 branded 2-piston calipers, 17-inch front wheel, cast alloy tubeless, and a short, stubby, probably not very effective front mudguard there, I would have thought, but styling's fine. Look at the rear wheel, and here we have a 240mm disc with a single pot J1 branded caliper, Spanish made I believe, double-sided swing arm, and the rear suspension, as you can see there, is a preload adjustable single shock absorber offset to the right hand side of the bike there. The engine in this bike is a 649cc double overhead cam liquid cooled parallel twin engine, and this puts out 60 brake horsepower at 8,750 rpm and 56 newton meters of torque at 6,500 rpm, and there's plenty of poke from that engine and plenty of torque in the mid-range, let me tell you. So yeah, a very feisty little unit going on there. There at the back we've got the old rear hugger there, which seems to be integrated even by way of a couple of plastic mouldings into the double-sided swing arm. Rather small and uncomfortable looking pillion pad there. Yeah, maybe not the best bike in the world to go touring any great distance to up. And I think black's the right colour for this bike, all things considered. Yeah, so 17 litre fuel tank on this bike, and that should give you I would have thought, easily a range of 200 miles. The bike weighs in at 206 kilograms wet, and a seat height of 795 millimeters. So I'm easily flat-footed on this bike. So switchgear, fairly standard. Headlight controls on the left hand side there, indicator, horn, and the mode selection switch for the TFT that we looked at earlier. Right hand side kill switch, start button, hazard warning switch, and then here we have the navigation array for the TFT functionality. Nice clear TFT there. Maybe a bit on the small side, but everything you need to know, I would suggest. So let's have a look at me seated upon this here bike. Right then, so I am 6'1" with a 32 to 33 inch inseam, about 85 kilos. And as you can see, I'm easily flat-footed on this bike while still retaining a bend at the knee. And the riding position, as I indicated earlier, is pretty tucked up there. Definitely an acute angle at the knee there, so the footrests are a fair way back. Not uncomfortable, but definitely on the old sporty side. Handlebar position nice and comfortable. I think if it were me, I might sort of try and bring them a bit further this way towards me, but that's just me. But I'm able to maintain a view ahead without too much of a crick in the neck, which is what usually gives me the problems, I think it's fair to say. So yeah, comfy bike. Star of the show with this bike without a doubt is the engine. It really does pack a punch. You can certainly feel that 60 brake horsepower, and it is mapped so that the most entertaining and rewarding delivery, if you like, is in the mid-range, just where you want the power to be. You know, just where you need that available power. So yeah, and the price of this bike, would you believe, £4,500. £4,500 for a 650cc naked motorcycle. And I reckon that the competition, such as it is, from the usual suspects, are not going to come in at anything like £4,500. That's my guess. Excellent value for money, this bike. So if you are actually in the market for a 650cc-ish naked bike to have some fun on, it'd be an excellent commuter, great weekend scratcher, potential tourer, one up more than two up I would suggest, then at £4,500 this has got to be on your list, because it represents excellent value for money. Fit and finish is spot on. You wouldn't sit on this bike, look at it and think, blimey, this is built to a sub £5,000 price point. You wouldn't. I can see no obvious skimping or saving on the fit and finish on this bike. It's got adjustable levers. Both brake and clutch are adjustable. Obviously, it's got ABS and a couple of riding modes, and a very entertaining ride it is too. Goes around bends like it's on rails, lovely sweet turning, and as I say, the acceleration in the higher gears 4, 5, 6 is absolutely excellent, more than enough to safely execute any overtaking situation that you might encounter. Yeah, depends what you're in the market for, doesn't it? Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, elephant in the room for some people is that it's Chinese made. But all I would say is it's about the bike, not its origins. If you want to take a principled stand on the bike's origins, that's fine. But by the same token, you might want to take a principled stand on the origins of just about all of our fuel, because the same sort of arguments tend to apply. So for me, it's about taking the bike at face value, looking at what it represents, and arriving at a decision as to whether at £4,500 this gives you the opportunity to own this kind of bike, whereas maybe this kind of bike from other more mainstream manufacturers might just be out of your reach. And that is the absolute strength of these machines from CF Moto, is that they bring bikes that would otherwise be out of the scope of many people's pockets back into being a realistic proposition. And I don't think you can, if you'll pardon the pun, put a price on that. So yeah, it is what it is. And for the initial capital outlay for this, and for the running costs, which I would imagine will be very modest indeed, this represents an excellent proposition for anybody on a budget. This is the demonstrator from Appleyards. If you're interested in this bike, get yourself up to Appleyards, ask to take this bike out for a ride, and you'll see what I mean. So yeah, CF Moto 650 NK, thumbs up, good bike, great fun. So in in conclusion then, who's this bike for? This CF Moto 650 NK? Well, anybody that wants heaps of fun on a mid-range bike that only costs £4,500 brand new. It's as simple as that. And it is heaps of fun. The power for a motorcycle with an engine of this size is intoxicating. A very, very engaging and rewarding ride indeed, but not a lot of brass. So, if you want to ride this bike, this is the demonstrator. Get yourself to Apple Yards and they'll be more than happy to let you take this bike out for a spin. And I hope you have as much fun as I've had. So it remains now only for me to thank the staff at Apple Yards, Kevin the general manager, Mikey the sales manager, Jason the service manager, and Kieran that looks after me, and all the other staff at Apple Yards in Keighley. Thank you for investing in me, your continued trust over the length of this collaboration of coming up to a year now. Aye, so with that I will bid ye farewell. Until the next time, and in the meantime, ride safe, be kind, and I'll see thee.